Welcome to November's third Thursday, which is going to focus on small group instruction. Many of you have said that a challenge in this unique time is that small group instruction is difficult to facilitate because of hybrid and the fact that we don't have all of our students in class. The second challenge is that when they are there, they really cannot group and have to be kept at a social distance. So today I hope to offer you some strategy and resources that may allow you to create small group instruction in your classrooms. Before we begin, I want to say happy Thanksgiving to all of you. With the upcoming holiday, I hope that you all have a very happy, blessed time of rest with your family, your friends. You have certainly done a fabulous job. The hours have been long, the work has been hard and challenging, and I'm very proud of everything that you've done. I think it's a wonderful accomplishment that we've been able to bring our students back on campus. I think data has shown that our results are very good. Our students will not have lost as much as could have been lost through COVID because of all of your hard work. So I want to say happy Thanksgiving, be safe, and be well. Today we're going to talk for the most part about a wonderful resource that is free to us. The taxpayers of California allowed for California libraries to give to schools Britannica School free of charge. And so we were able to capitalize on this as well. And it's an excellent resource that I've presented to you before, but I'm going to go through in depth today because I think it's something that truly can be used to facilitate that small group instruction. Briefly, I'm going to go over some collaborative study group techniques, show you some templates that I've linked, and some good collaborative toolkit resources that you may be able to use. So why do we group? Essentially, there's two reasons. One is so that teachers will have the opportunity to meet in small one-on-one sessions of conferencing or in small groups to allow for differentiation or that intensive work that needs to be done. When we have many students in the classroom at many different levels, that direct teaching strategy is not one that's effective for all times. So that small group instruction is actually going to allow us to meet the individual needs of our students. But the second very important reason is that small groups allow for enhanced student agency and confidence. Students have the opportunity to guide their learning in small groups. They get that great leadership, that great responsibility, those lifelong skills that are going to help them as they go forward as learners. So we don't want to miss that opportunity to have small group instruction in our classes. It offers a nice variance. And that's something that we want. We certainly need direct instruction, but we also need that small group instruction. And this flow chart of learning in small group instruction can be seen here. As we get students who have a heightened sense of agency, we know that those lifelong skills of being able to ask questions, seek help, and collaborate with our peers as we try to resolve misunderstandings is what's going to come out of that small group work. And then in the end, ultimately, we have students who own their learning and own their progression in their learning, which is what we want. That's the lifelong skill. So let's start off with Britannica School. Awesome resource. This is a digital version of the encyclopedia. It is going to be somewhere where you can access articles, biographies, videos, images, and also have work with like vocabulary, current events. And the wonderful thing about it is that it's got 4 different levels. So our learners from K through high school can access this. If you have, some of us do have blended classrooms where we have 2 grades, but if say you're teaching 3rd grade, but you've got students at reading levels from say 1st to 6th, this tool, this resource allows you to manipulate the reading levels so they all get the same information, but with the text complexity that allows them to be challenging in their learning. It's all standard aligned, and I will show you how you can gather resources and kind of collect lesson plans. It interfaces perfectly with Google Classroom, which is why I think it's great for small groups. You can push it out like a flipped classroom where they can read the information the night before and the next day come in with some work done. And then some students during class the next day would be reading the information. Or you can have students turn that in to the Google Classroom as homework. So it will interface perfectly. Everything can be pushed straight out. When you go to Britannica School for the first time, you are going to want to, even though it is 100% free, you are going to want to put in the username and the curriculum. It's the same for the entire diocese. The students will as well. And then once that is done, you can personalize your profile. There's a couple of links over here, and they are links for, I'll show you them, station slides, which as I go through and I show you how you could set this up, you can set this up so the students, when they come, know exactly where they go in their station. So you may find that helpful to use. The other one I have is for center slides, and these are for our K through 2. The older grades, or this could actually go up to 4 or 5 per se, but the older grades may not want to use something like this, but this certainly shows this would be the digital center, this would be the independent work, small group, and then this would be the intensive work with the teacher. And so these slides are yours to use. You can push out on your Google Classroom. You can modify them each week so that students know where they are and what they'll be working on for the week or the day. All right, I want to go through Britannica School with you through the individual levels so that you feel comfortable with it. So we'll begin with fundamentals. So this is our most simple level. It's for our youngest learners, K through 2. This is something that they can have read to them, or you can turn that off very easily right here, and then they read it to themselves. So I'm going to leave the reading element on so that you can see it. Obviously, these are going to be stories that are read to them with information. This is going to be more of an exploratory science, social studies. These are more like games, learning games for language and math, and this is more like a paint board. So you can see how this would be something, maybe this was the station and you had an independent group that did some paper pencil work, then you had a group that was working on Britannica School reading or exploring, then you had a group that was working with you individually. So this is something that you can use in your classroom. Let's go through read. You can pick any of these different genres, and then we start it.
Animals. In this book, you will...
And as I go through now, I'll click through so you can just see.
Everywhere in the world, animals are living and doing their best.
And as a teacher, you can, prepare for this, know what it is, ask for them to locate certain words that they hear, write them down, color, stop it as they go along. There's little tiny questions or tasks on each page. It's very friendly, very visually pleasing. I think your students would like it. If we go to explore, this kind of gives you an idea of what that is like. They get a little bit of map work. They get a little bit of science work. When you click over here, it shows you where in the world those biomes are. If you click here, you get the picture. If you click down here, you get a short video. And by saying short, it's only going to be about minute and a half. And again, you could have them paint something.
Tropical rainforests are one kind of forest biome.
Once they finish, they could go to create in another center and perhaps do something here. And then for play, you can see it's language arts and math, and it's just simple little video type questions.
Add it up. Solve the addition problem. That's right.
So that's how that works.
Add it up. Solve the addition problem.
So now going back, so I hope you see where with those station slides and the center slides, you might be able to plug in Britannica School fundamentals into your classroom and easily create additional work that you could do with that. And it can be pushed out, like I said, through your Google Classroom site. If we look at elementary, this is going to be a little bit more complex. There's always going to be a question at the top that the students could answer. Again, we've got 3 different areas. We've got articles, images and videos, basically the same sort of information, but in images and videos format. And then this is very different. It's biographies. So if I look here under articles, you'll see that there's many different areas. When you click on the area, so say we're doing something on plants and living things, obviously there's 111 different results. They go alphabetically. Here's some filtering over here that you can use. Once you click on it, say you were doing some writing on almonds, you would click that. Over here is where it could be pushed out or turned in through your learning management system. This is what I was talking about adjusting the reading level. So you may have students, and the elementary is going to go from Lexile of 600 to 1,000. You may have students that this is, perfectly fine for them. But what if you have students that need a little bigger challenge? We don't want students being bored. We want them challenging themselves, but you don't want them to get different information. By clicking on 2, that's going to give them the exact same information, but in a more complex text. And likewise, if you want to go all the way up to 3, it's going to be even more complex. Again, once you get to these articles, you'll see where there's images and videos. Related means topics that are similar to this, that would go with this, additional sources with this, that would go with almonds, maybe about nuts, about agriculture, about California. Could be many different things. And that's how you push them through here. So again, that's your articles that you're going to get. If we go back, and you can see there's many different categories that you can push that articles out through. Images is going to be the exact same thing, but it's going to be with videos or just pictures. So, say you're doing a Jamboard, so students could, like with one center, could be watching, learning, reading something. The next one could be creating notes. That could be independent work. The next one could be a collaborative center where you're talking with your peers about what you read about on Britannica, and maybe creating through a Google Meet a Jamboard with your peers. And that could be your collaborative work to see if you all got the same main idea out of what you were reading about. So that is kind of how videos works. And then biographies is nicely displayed, obviously, the alphabetical. Once students pull something up, alphabetically it goes through, and there's a tremendous amount. This makes the font larger or smaller. And then, once you pull that up, once again, it'll give them related. If you go to teacher, it's going to give you all of your standards that the students are going to be learning through this. So it's standard aligned if you needed to put that in your lesson plans. And then once again, if I choose to make it more complex text for my higher readers that need a bigger challenge, I could click that. And like I said, the wonderful thing is when the students come together collaboratively, they all have the same information. So they can compare notes very well. They've just been allowed to read at the level that they needed to read at. Going down, you see that aside from this, we have wonderful information in the sciences on the animal kingdom. We have great work with geography and social studies, especially like the comparing the countries. If you're doing compare and contrast, this is lovely. I can put in, say I'm going to put in Angola here, and I'm going to put in Argentina here. It will give me a lovely visual of the two different countries. So it's showing students at a very young level when you're doing compare and contrast work, the information you need to get that's the same for both, and then how to kind of organize that and write that up. So that's a great way to get students writing their first compare and contrast work. World Atlas is a fun and interesting. They have little widgets here. So say you were studying a certain biome, say you were studying a certain area, they can take the little widget, come over and drop it in a specific city, and then you can take a 3D tour. So I'm not going to be able to get specific, but say I wanted to go over here to California. I hope that's where I got. Yep. And I can just take a 3D tour of the coast of California. So I can actually get exactly to the specific city that I want to be at, but I did that quickly just so you could see. The awesome feature about this, if you have students that are not English language speakers and they are English language learners or they're a second language, you can find, I think, hundreds of different languages, and all the information here will translate to their native language. So this is elementary. If I go back, I can easily go to middle. You can see that this is a little more complex. It's got a different type of question at the top. Students, this would be great bell work in the morning, but remember we're talking about centers and small group work here. This has a few extra features. At a glance is kind of your current events, so you're slowly kind of edging into current events and news. This is talking about the Americas at Thanksgiving time and presidents. It's got a did you know and a wonderful vocabulary here and a can you guess. Then if you go down, we've got that good work with compare, and obviously this information is going to be a little more complicated, and our good work with the atlas. There is a little bit of information here with primary sources that you can start doing with your students, and then you've got your news articles down at the bottom. So excellent work, and an easy way to pull up information for students that they can do in small groups and reading at their own level and then comparing their notes. I want to show you going again, anytime you hit this Britannica School, it'll take you to the different levels. And so you can see where now the most complex is going to be our high school, but you may have in the upper middle schools students that are ready for this more complex work. Certainly as a second reference, sometimes when we're doing our research papers or our work in social studies, same format. So if we did this throughout the grades, students would get very familiar with using this. And I think it takes away the sense or the intimidation of I can't read quite as well as you. Students can manipulate it so they can get the information they need, whether it is at through a video or looking at an image. And just very visually pleasing, very easy to use. Again, you see the primary sources, and then this one goes, the high school goes much more into news of the day and contemporary information. So going back, you can see the different levels of Britannica School, and you can see all the different ways that you can incorporate it into every single content area that you're teaching throughout the day. So when we're thinking of this small group work, Britannica is a great way that it can take a few students. So you could have a few students working on listening to something and gathering notes. You could have other students reading something and gathering notes. Then you could have students in another small group comparing their notes. So Britannica School offers you a resource that is going to truly be able to free you up so that students have an engaging tool in order to work in small collaborative groups. So now to go to our collaborative study group work, I want to throw a little spin on it. So obviously, as I've been talking, you can take information and create these center type small groups of working stations for students where you assign either a story to read or a video to watch or maybe a paper to create. But you may also want to look at your collaborative study groups in a different way. And this is more for our probably 4, but could go down as low as 3 through 8th grade students. So say you pushed out, maybe even the night before, an article or a video that the students were supposed to read. I have linked over here primary, and this would be if you wanted to do this for the little ones, or 3 through 8 learning intentions. So you might push out an article through Britannica School that you want your students to read about. And then you would have them fill out their learning intentions. So this is really creating that good sense of agency. You know, I watched this video because I'm learning about this, and they would be able to state that learning intention, and then you would talk with them about what they would, be able to do at the end of the work that they're going to do with that article. But maybe through that information that they read about the night before or a morning in class by themselves, they have questions and misunderstandings. And so with this template, you give the students an opportunity to write that down and identify that. And that's a lifelong skill. We want students to not feel like they always have to get things instantly. We want them to feel as though they get new information and then they may have confusion. And so they have to be able to identify that confusion from the new information or the new concepts and write that down so they can seek help in order to be able to resolve that misunderstanding. So one of your stations could be students determining really what that misunderstanding is that they have with that form. Then you could have another center where students are talking together about what their different questions were and maybe trying to collaborate on if they have information that can help each other resolve that misunderstanding. Your third group would be where the student independently reflects upon what they read, what their misunderstanding was, and then what the collaborative work was, and if they have some sort of new connection for that. And then your fourth group would be the teacher group with the small group talking through maybe what the student learned, and then kind of smoothing through some of those wrinkles so that the understanding is clear. So this is a different way to look at collaborative study groups or centers. Not necessarily presenting new information, but having the student or the class work as a whole to understand that one concept. And they are moving through stations that allow them to move through until they have clarity. So again, this is just a different way to kind of think about your study groups, and the two resources are linked here. Okay, so when you're doing these collaborative study groups, you might want to use this to go through with the students what they really need to be thinking about. So identifying specific question, articulating their specific question when they're in the group, having certain questions or maybe sentence starters that you have that you work with your students on being able to use. I heard you say this. I'm confused why you said this. I agree that you said this, but I think this. So you want to talk with them about how to do all that good during collaborative work. And then you also want to talk with them about having the academic skills to be able to reflect after and making the connections between what was said, what was new learning, what was previous learning. So before, during, and after academic skills is something that you would want to go over with your students so that they had that good understanding. And like I said, there's excellent sentence starters that you can contact me. You can look up, but I have where students get those little prompts so that they are able to have good collaboration. Whoops. And so here's some resources are linked that you also might find helpful when you are trying to do these collaborative study groups in your classrooms. The first is 2 and 3 column notes. So getting students to really understand that note-taking has a structure and a framework to it and a purpose. This first table here kind of shows you an example of how students would organize it. This would be your purpose, your essential question of the article that they would be reading or the video. And then these would be the students' main ideas, the students' notes and key points they found. This column could be their commentary, how they felt about what they read, or additional details that they read. And then this final column could be when they get together with their peers, what are some of the things that their peers said or any additional notes that they wanted. So you would need to determine if you wanted 2 or 3 columns and how you wanted to set up those 2 or 3 columns. Students then would get used to organizing their notes like this from their reading. They would get used to going to a group where they talked about it and could get more information and reflect. So down below, I give you these templates if you wanted 2 and if you wanted 3 column notes. Another nice template, or actually a guide that I give you, is on Socratic Seminar. So Socratic Seminar is going to be during that good collaborative work when your students have your notes and they have questions that they want to discuss. And this gives you some of the before, during, and after skills, performance objectives, and guiding questions that you may want to use. You can set it up where there's one person taking notes, where there's one person sharing out. There's many different ways, but this is a nice resource that leads you through that good collaborative group work where students are asking questions and discussing information, and if you wanted to start with that good Socratic Seminar work. Finally, Screencast-O-Matic, that's what I'm actually using today. So sometimes you can push out these great articles, and that could be a small group where they're reading it. You could also push out your own notes or your own lecture so that you have free time in order to meet with a small group. So say you have some information that you really want to add to the article that the students are reading, but you want to have that small group that you're able to work with. You could use Screencast-O-Matic to record your video of that information, and that could be one of the small groups, would be students watching that, getting that good information from you, but freeing you up so you could work in a small group. And again, student agency, allowing students to understand that the learning is in their hands, and they can not only control it, but use it in order to further their academic ability. And going back to a previous Third Thursday when I talked about CASEL's core competencies and really making sure that students feel equitable instruction, that they feel like they are getting information and teaching and instruction that fits where they are as a learner. So if you have questions about making sure if you're really facilitating an equitable learning environment, you might want to refer back to previous Third Thursdays where I talked about those fundamental CASEL's core competencies of that good social emotional learning, which definitely is part of group instruction. So that's it for this Third Thursday. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you do try to experiment with Britannica. Maybe do it in one subject area. Maybe do it just one time in a week, one time in a unit, and work your way up till you feel comfortable with it. But I hope that it allows for you to start doing some of that good small group instruction in your classes. Thanks. Have a great day.